This is considered, this type of this type of expression, first off, yes, sir, it's a trinomial because it's three terms. Second off, it is a quadratic. It's considered a quadratic because of that x squared, which we are going to be talking about quadratics for like the next couple weeks. Quadratics. Because of that x squared, it's considered a quadratic. Now let me give you an example of how this thing would look like if you graphed it out. If you graph this thing out, it would have a U shape. Okay? That's another hint to tell you that that is a quadratic. Yes. Extremely fast, please. Please before you miss this. For right now, that have an x squared. Notice there is no number in front of this x squared. So for today, all we're going to talk about is no number in front of that x squared. All right? Does that make sense? Oh, that's a big thing. You have to notice that we are not dealing with any number in front of that x squared. Because whenever we do put a number in front of it, we have to solve it differently or factor it differently. Okay? So notice we don't have a number in front of that x squared. Now, to factor this out, this is the one thing you need to remember. First off, you need factors of whatever that last number is. They call it C. Okay? All right? We need factors of 12 that add up to 7. We are going to find factors of 12 that add up to be 7. So factors of 12 that add up to be 7. Okay. Now make sure, what form is this x squared in? X squared plus 7x plus 12. It's in standard form because it is largest degree to smallest degree. Like if this x squared was over here, we're not going to be finding factors of x squared. Make sure that your expression is in standard form, largest degree to smallest degree. All right, so we're going to be finding factors of 12, and make sure you recognize it's a positive 12, that add up to be a positive 7. Now, I always like making a little T-chart to the side. So I need factors of 12 that add up, so I'm just going to put sum, with a sum of 7. Off the top of your head, what are factors of 12 that add up to be 7? Factors of 12. Well, first one, you know 6 times 2 gives me 12. So you can write that down if you want. Now, if you add 6 and 2, what do you get? 8. So does that work? No. Yes. 3 and 4. If you add that together, you get 7. Okay? So we figured out our two factors. 7 times 0? 7 times 1. If you add that together, what do you get? 8. So we're splitting that 7x up. Okay? We're going to split it up into whatever factors we find. We figured out it's 3 and 4. So, I'm just going to rewrite it. X squared. Remember, our two factors that we found that add up to be 7 are 3 and 4. So I'm going to do plus 3x and plus 4x and plus 12. Notice I only changed that middle term. That's the only thing I did. I split that middle term up. Okay? Does everybody see that? Now we have 4 terms, and we can factor by grouping. So I can draw a little line down the middle of this, imaginary line, split it up into 2 terms and 2 terms. Okay? Now you're going to find the greatest common factor of the first 2 terms, which is only going to be x. If I factor out a x from x squared, I'm going to have an x left. Okay. If I factor out a x from 3x, I'm just going to have a plus 3. If you're still not feeling comfortable with factoring that out correctly, if you're having trouble determining what that greatest common factor is, okay, hopefully you should be getting more familiar with it. It should be coming quicker to you. If you're having trouble with it, go over to the side and factor each number out. That's perfectly fine. Like whenever you guys take your quiz Friday, I'd be doing this. I'd factor each number out. I'd go over here and I'd circle my greatest common factor of x. There's my x. And then what is left, I have an x and a 3. X plus 3. Okay? Now, from 4x and 12, what's the greatest common factor? What is left if I factor out a 4 from 4x? X. And if I factor out a 4 from 12, all I have left is 3. Now the last thing we need to do is group these terms together. If I have 2 of the x plus 3s, I can just write down one of them.
You have to do x plus 4.
And I'm going to go ahead and group together this x plus 4. And you're done. Okay, we didn't need a visual representation. Shh. I could see. I have good peripherals.
I have them.
Peripheral?
Peripheral.
You said peripherals.
It's peripheral.
Okay, if I say plural, it's peripherals. Correct?
Yes.
Oh, did you like what you saw?
And you saw what you
Thank
wanted.
you. So, sorry. Factors of 2 that add up to be 3. Not everybody at once. Tell me what that's going to be.
2. 2.
What'd you say, David? 2 times 1. You are on a roll.
Honor roll.
On a
Yeah.
So, we figured out, remember, what are we doing? We're splitting up that 3x into whatever our factors that add up to be our 3, okay? We're splitting that middle term up. All right, so we split it up into 2 and 1. Now make sure you're not messing with that x squared. And you're not messing with that 2. That stays the same. The only thing you just did was you figured out the 2 numbers so that we can split up that middle term. Now, let's go back to our grouping. Draw a little line, split it into 2, split it into 2. Okay, I'm going to go through this a little bit faster. X squared plus 2x, greatest common factor.
Is that a negative x or 1x?
That's a positive 1x. X squared and 2x, greatest common factor.
X.
Dylan, what's left if you factor out an x?
Yeah, John.
No, Dylan Watson. He's here.
Plus 2.
X plus 2. Good job, Dylan. Ryder. Okay, if you factor out an x from x squared and 2x, well, all you have left is x plus 2. Now, from the positive 1x and 2 is, 1. My greatest common factor is 1 from those 2 terms. And all we have left is exactly what we started out with. Now, guys, don't get confused, which this kind of annoys me sometimes. Whenever there's a 1x and an x, what does that really mean? It means the same thing. That's what I'm after. Yeah, you're right, Dylan. That means if there's not a number in front of this x, that's a understood 1. Okay? So this is the exact same thing. Exact same thing. So I'm going to group together what is outside of the parentheses. And now I have my little 2 for 1 special. I got 2 of the x plus 2, so I'm just write down one of them. And I'm done. Whatever the sign is in front of that number, that's what we're looking for. So we need factors of 27 that add up to be a negative 12. Does everybody see that? Good. Perfect. Awesome. What are some factors of 27? 9 and 3? Now, how in the world are we going to get to a negative 12?
Minus negative.
We know you're going to have to involve a negative number. Now, we need factors of a positive 27, though.
Do positive come first or negative come negative? Somebody come.
If you multiply a negative 9 times a negative 3, first off, you get 27, a positive 27. Second off, if you add those together, you get a negative 12. Josh, turn around.
You didn't think I'd get that right, did you?
No.
Well, I did, they didn't know.
Is split up that negative 12x into our 2 terms. Okay? So everything else stays the exact same. Except for that middle term. All we did right there is split up that middle term. A common mistake is you want to mess with that x squared and you want to mess with that 27. Guys, just drop it down. All you're doing is splitting up that middle term. Okay? Now, what are we going to do? Factor by
Grouping.
wonderful. You guys are just rolling right now.
On point.
No, I am. Yeah. Can we all go to Mexican food?
That's racist.
We're gonna ponchos.
I love ponchos.
Now, x squared and minus 9x. What's the greatest common factor?
X,
3.
What's left?
X, minus 9.
Now, negative 3x and positive 27. What's the greatest common factor?
Positive 3.
I told you there's 3.
And a 27 over to the side. If I'm trying to find my greatest common factor, now I want you to factor out the sign of that first number. Notice that's a negative 3x. So whatever number I want you to factor out, I want you to factor out a negative 1. So I can factor out a negative 1 and a 3. Okay? So this is a negative 3. Now what is left when I factor that out?
X.
X
You do minus 27.
minus 9.
Because the negative times negative.
Yes, because I need to get a positive 9 right there. Okay? Shh. Now I'm down to my grouping part.
That's easy. It's fun.
X minus 9. Now, what's a way we can check our answer?
You foil it.
You can FOIL it or distribute it.
Foil it.
If you FOIL that out or distribute it out, you're going to end up with the exact same thing as what we started out with. X squared minus 12x plus 27.
Oh my.
Okay?
Is your favorite color